Since when did an 11-year-old child become a national security threat to the state? 900 young individuals now carry the weight of state-sponsored criminal cases on their shoulders. So Mumbai is always accused of being apolitical, Gen Z not being interested in politics, but the clampdown has reached the financial capital, and the financial capital is refusing to stay silent. If the political establishment in New Delhi thought they could contain the raging fire of the student movement within the borders of the national capital, they completely miscalculated. On Monday, the streets of Mumbai, specifically around the historic and sacred ground of Chaitya-Bhumi in Dadar, became a battleground of a different kind. It wasn't a battle of violence from the students. It was a battle of systematic, clinical, and aggressive state suppression to prevent young minds from assembling. The state did not just deploy police officers, they deployed an entire strategy of preemptive profiling, house arrest, and mass WhatsApp notices. Tonight, we expose the numbers, the locations, and the shocking tactics used by Mumbai police to crush the voice of students of Mumbai and the students coming from other cities of Maharashtra. Let's lay bare the sheer scale of the police action in Mumbai. The authorities claimed they were simply maintaining law and order under Section 37 of the Maharashtra Police Act. But the numbers tell an entirely different story, a story of a state deeply terrified of solidarity of its students. Over 300 peaceful student protesters and activists were indiscriminately rounded up and taken into custody before they could even utter a single slogan or raise a banner at Dadar. The state mechanism distributed the detained students across multiple police stations to fracture their collective strength. At least 41 individuals were locked away at the Sion police station. More than 50 protesters were packed into Mahim police station. Over 23 young men and students were held until late at night at the Bhoiwada police station. Dozens of others, including prominent youth figures, were aggressively intercepted and carted off to Shivaji Park and Worli police stations. This shows you the extent of clampdown even in a city like Mumbai. The state didn't stop at detentions. The Mumbai police have registered a staggering 8 separate FIRs across the city, booking more than 900 citizens and students for simply wanting to stand in solidarity with the Chalo Sansad March in Delhi. Think about that. 900 young individuals now carry the weight of state-sponsored criminal cases on their shoulders. And what is their crime? Not something of killing, murders, etc., or leading to violence. All they were demanding for was an answer for the compromised NEET UG and the TET examination systems. What happened in Mumbai wasn't just a standard crowd management. It was a highly coordinated, authoritarian digital dragnet. Look at the case of 26-year-old advocate Samya Korde, a key organizer for the Mumbai Against Suppression of Students coalition. Hours before the protest could even begin, police personnel surrounded her residence, placing her under de facto house arrest before officially detaining her. This is a tactic reserved for hardcore criminals, deployed against a young lawyer fighting for students. Since when did that become a crime? Let this sink in. Among those bundled into police vans at Dadar were school-going girls and an 11-year-old boy who accompanied his 19-year-old student brother at the protest. Since when did an 11-year-old child become a national security threat to the state? Ask yourselves this question. Multiple students have come forward alleging that while in illegal custody, their mobile phones were forcibly taken away. Data was extracted and their photographs, phone numbers, and home addresses were logged. And to top off this dystopian nightmare, by Tuesday morning, the police began bombarding hundreds of youngsters with legal notices over WhatsApp under Section 35(3) of the BNSS. So that makes it very clear they are even profiling them. They're trying to inject pure unadulterated fear into an entire generation so that no student ever dares to question why their exam papers are being leaked to the highest bidder. Let's look at the absolute absurdity of the administration stance. The Mumbai police deployed over 500 heavily armed personnel just to block access to Dadar Beach and Chaitya-Bhumi. They turned a memorial dedicated to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the architect of our constitution, the man who gave us the right to liberty and speech, into a barricaded fortress to suppress those very rights enshrined in our constitution, and constitution which was written by Baba Saheb Ambedkar. The ruling dispensation is playing a dangerous game. They believe that by using the police to intimidate students in Mumbai, Pune, and Nagpur, they can cut off the oxygen to the movement against Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. But they forget one fundamental reality. Mumbai is a city of the historic Quit India movement. It is a city that does not bow down to intimidation. You may feel victorious today because you successfully cleared the pavements of Dadar. You may feel proud that your vans were full of teenagers, young girls, and activists who you were taking for detention. But let's be entirely clear, this is not a victory. When a state has to resort to scanning the phones of students and placing young lawyers under house arrest just to protect an incompetent union minister in Delhi, that state has completely lost its moral compass. The student leaders have already announced the next move. If you block Dadar, they will move to Azad Maidan. If you block Azad Maidan, they will occupy every campus across the state. You do not have enough jail cells. You do not have enough police vans. And you certainly do not have enough WhatsApp notices to silence the collective conscience of India's youth. Release the students, withdraw the FIRs, and start listening to the generation that is going to inherit this country and be responsible for its future.